Most people wake up, reach for their phone, scroll for 10 minutes, and then drag themselves out of bed to grab coffee because it's how they really wake up, and wonder why they feel like they're 20 years older than they actually are. I'm going to show you 5 biological signals that affect the quality of your days and what you can do to improve them, so you not only master your mornings, but create a powerful morning habit chain that will bolster your physical and mental resilience, revive your circadian rhythm, and prime your body to age gracefully. So here's what most people don't realize. Your body runs on rhythms, circadian rhythms, hormonal rhythms, metabolic rhythms. These aren't just wellness buzzwords. Quite the contrary. They're biological in nature. They're operating systems that have been fine-tuned over millions of years. Your morning is when these systems are the most receptive to input. The first signal is light. That's your daily anchor. Within 30 minutes of waking up, and ideally sooner, you want to be having light hit your eyes. Not the light from checking notifications on your phone screen, no, but sunlight. So here's what's actually happening when you get proper sunlight. Your eyes have these specialized cells called melanopsin cells that detect light levels, and it actually signals your brain's master clock, the suprachiasmatic nucleus. When that clock gets strong morning light signals, it triggers a cascade of functions, much like hitting the ignition in your car. Cortisol peaks naturally, which is good. That's your wake-up hormone. That's when you want it at its highest. Melatonin production gets scheduled for later in the day, about 12 to 14 hours after waking up. You're literally programming your sleep for the same day by doing this in the morning. This is why I have been such a strong advocate for keeping my wake-up time the same, even on weekends. So if you're tired and you want to sleep in, instead of staying in bed longer, I suggest getting to bed earlier. And this isn't just about energy. People with strong circadian rhythms have had better insulin sensitivity, lower inflammation, better cognitive function, and here's the big one, cells that repair themselves more efficiently, reducing the risk of cancer development. When your internal clock is off, your body doesn't know when to clean up damaged proteins, when to repair DNA, or when to regulate blood sugar. Over the years, this dysregulation shows up as metabolic disease, poor sleep, brain fog, and accelerated aging. What's the game plan? Just step outside. If it's sunny, 5 to 10 minutes first thing in the morning should do the trick. And you should be able to look at the sun here. We don't want sunglasses. But if it's overcast, try to get a bit more, say about 20 to 30 minutes of that morning sun. Just let the light hit your eyes. You know, it's funny. Growing up, my mother always told me to go outside and absorb the morning sun because it was ancient wisdom from Vedic texts that we should gain the sun's blessing. Suffice to say, the sun is blessing us. It's blessing us with a solid circadian rhythm. Modern science is just backing it up now. So there you go. If you live somewhere with dark winters, get a 10,000 lux light therapy box. Position it at eye level for about 20 minutes while you're eating breakfast or doing your emails. And if you're waking up before sunrise, just get outside at first light. It does the same thing. Your body knows the difference between artificial and natural light, even when it's dim. The second signal here is hydration. You just went about 8 hours without drinking a sip of water. You're not dying of thirst per se, but it's leaving you mildly dehydrated. Your blood is slightly thicker, your heart has to work a little harder, and every single cell in your body is operating below optimal levels. Most people grab coffee first thing. Coffee's fine, but coffee first is a bad idea. And I'm not here to demonize caffeine. I use it too. But if you do that before rehydrating, you're just digging the dehydration hole deeper. Here's where it gets interesting. Water alone is good, but water with electrolytes is better. Your cells maintain an electrical charge, you see. Sodium, potassium, magnesium, these aren't just salts. They're what allows your neurons to fire, your muscles to contract, and your heart to beat in rhythm. When you rehydrate with plain water, you're adding volume. But when you add a pinch of good salts, you're actually improving cellular hydration. The sodium helps water move into the cells instead of just passing through you. Besides, Your brain is 75% water. So even a 1 to 2% dehydration impairs focus, memory, and decision making. So what's the game plan? Before coffee, before breakfast, drink 300 to 500 milliliters of water, 10 ounces, with a quarter a teaspoon of sea salt or Himalayan salt. Look, if you've got electrolyte sachets or powdered magnesium, even better. For those of you who are more bodily aware, you will notice within minutes just how revitalized everything feels. Much like when a wilted plant is given water, you actually spring back on your feet with a better sense of your mind and body. If you want to go the extra mile, track your hydration as well. Aim for about 2 to 3 liters throughout the day. Pale yellow urine is the benchmark for adequate daily hydration. Personally, I normally have 2 large water bottles that I drink out of daily. One for when I'm at work and one for when I'm at home. I fill them up to full every day and ensure that I finish at least 75% from each bottle, giving me over 3 liters of hydration. That's how I know. Our third signal is movement, but not just of any kind. You see, you've been lying down for about 8 hours. Blood flow to your extremities has slowed. Your lymphatic system, which clears metabolic waste, has become sluggish. Your joints are stiff because synovial fluid hasn't been circulating. Getting your body moving in the morning doesn't mean you need to crush out an intense workout. In fact, for a lot of people, especially if you're over 40, going hard first thing in the morning can be quite counterproductive. What you want is gentle, deliberate movement that wakes up your system without creating excessive stress. Even 10 to 15 minutes of walking improves your glucose regulation for the entire day. Studies show that people who walk in the morning have better insulin sensitivity, which means your cells respond to insulin more effectively, your pancreas works less, and your risk of diabetes drops. There's also a cardiovascular benefit. Morning movement increases blood flow through all your organs, including your brain. That's why people who move early report better focus, better mood, and lower anxiety compared to doing the same activity later in the day. And here's where longevity comes in. People who maintain consistent movement habits, especially in the morning, preserve muscle mass, bone density, and joint function longer. You're telling your body, we still need this system. Growing up, I used to see fit grandparents walk around the field across from my home. And it was startling. They would be up at 6:30 in the morning doing laps, some even encompassing some sort of movement, with your arm swings and everything. And I was amazed. All of them looked lean, nimble, and genuinely more alive than the crowd of 30-year-olds that would shuffle themselves to the train station 2 hours later to rush to work. I never understood it back then, but ever since I personally included a 30 to 60-minute walk in my morning routine, I can confidently say the oldies were onto something. They knew about longevity. They knew how to nurture their bodies and keep their minds active. So, what's our simple morning routine here? A 10 to 15-minute walk. That's it. Walk at a pace where you can talk but feel slightly breathless. So it's almost like a brisk walk. If you want to add resistance, bodyweight squats, push-ups, those kind of things, perfect. But don't overcomplicate it. I would much rather opt for a few pieces of mobility work, such as hip openers, thoracic rotations, and ankle mobility exercises. If you're training later in the day, this primes your joints and nervous system so that your actual workout is more effective. Your initiative to move here is the accelerant for massive change. And I would be grateful if you could spare some of the initiative to give this video a like and consider subscribing so that more people can master their morning routines and reclaim their health. Thank you. The next signal we give your body is to keep your muscles with adequate protein consumption. Your body exists in 2 states, building or breaking down, anabolic and catabolic. Sleep is primarily anabolic if you have been eating right and managing your stress correctly. Since most people undereat protein and have a more upregulated nervous system, sleep can in fact be a bit more of a catabolic experience. If you're not getting adequate deep and REM sleep, your body isn't truly resting and rebuilding. It might break down muscle tissue instead of build it up so that it can use the high quality amino acids present in there to repair itself. If you haven't been having adequate protein, this next step is far more crucial. When you wake up, you have a choice. Do you send a signal to keep breaking down, or do you send a signal to start building? Protein in the morning, ideally within a few hours of waking, triggers muscle protein synthesis. And before you think this is just for gym bros trying to get jacked, let me be very clear. Muscle is a longevity organ. After 30, you start losing muscle mass. And it accelerates a lot more after 50. We're talking about 3 to 8% per decade. By your 70s and 80s, low muscle mass is one of the strongest predictors of mortality and disability. Not because muscle looks good, but because muscle is a metabolically active tissue. It's where your body goes to store and use glucose. It's what keeps your joints stable. It's what allows you to get off the floor without using your hands, carry groceries, recover from falls, and even go around on adventures or play with your grandkids in retirement. Lose muscle and your metabolic health tanks. Insulin resistance creeps in, movement becomes harder, and the worst of all, independence fades. Here's the thing, your muscles are more responsive to protein earlier in the day. It's circadian. Your body builds muscle better in the morning than it does at night, even if total protein intake is the same. So instead, we'll follow a protein-first approach to meal building. Look to getting about 40 to 50 grams of protein at breakfast. It's not as hard as it sounds, don't worry. 3 eggs plus Greek yogurt gets you there. A protein smoothie with 2 scoops of whey or a plant-based alternative is my personal favorite way to go. Leftover dinner that's high in protein with a bit of sweet potato. Need I say more? You have options to work with here. The key is that the majority should come from a protein-rich source: meat, fish, eggs, dairy, or quality protein powder. Not just adding a scoop of protein to a giant bowl of cereal and calling it a day. Do you know why that doesn't work? Most breakfasts are way too packed with carbohydrates that are usually refined, such as with cereal or bread or your granola mixes. Not only does this spike insulin early in the day, leaving you with that mid-morning crash begging you for that second cup of coffee, but it means you're getting hungrier faster. Protein not only slows down digestion and keeps you full for longer, but it prolongs the release of energy into your bloodstream. Now, the fifth signal is a little bit more optional, and it is cold exposure. This is the one that sort of makes people recoil because it sounds tricky, and I get it, it's not for everyone. I'm not asking you to jump into an ice bath first thing in the morning. But here's what the research shows with cold exposure. Controlled cold exposure triggers a hormetic stress response. Hormesis is when small amounts of stress makes your system stronger. Like lifting weights creating micro damages, making your muscles get bigger. Same idea here, it's exposure therapy. Cold exposure causes a massive release of noradrenaline, about a 200 to 300% increase in some studies. And that's just not about feeling alert first thing in the morning. Noradrenaline has anti-inflammatory effects as well. And chronic inflammation is one of the primary drivers of every age-related disease. Heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, including most cancers. There's also research on cold shock proteins, molecules your body produces in response to cold that may protect your brain from neurodegeneration. It's early stuff, but it's genuinely compelling, and I suggest you go research, look at it yourself. And cold activates brown adipose tissue, or brown fat. People with more active brown fat have better metabolic health, which lowers your body fat and increases your insulin sensitivity. On a psychological note, cold exposure increases your mental fortitude because, well, it's tough. It makes you real tough. You'll be able to handle stressful situations better with a more level head and regulate those stressors for a lot longer. But here are a few things that I can recommend to help you do this safely. Start very small. End your normal shower with 30 seconds of cold water in the morning. Maybe build it up over a couple of weeks to 2 to 3 minutes. And I know a lot of people aren't a fan of cold showers, so here are a few alternatives that you can try. Contrast showering, where it's 30 seconds of warm and 30 seconds of cool instead of cold. Or just cold water splashed into your face and neck. A brisk walk outside in colder weather has similar benefits as well. So as long as you're creating a mild stressor, we're okay. You're taking a step into the right direction. Okay, so you've got the 5 signals. Here's how to actually build this into your life without overwhelming yourself and creating a 2-hour-long morning routine. I would advise against doing all 5 of these things tomorrow. That's a recipe for overwhelm and giving up. So we're gonna do what's called habit stacking right now. And that just means to do complementary actions either at the same time or one of the other. So it's like win-win-win. So complementing wins let you accelerate this new habit structure, and you get to feel good about yourself when you do it. So if you want to start with something very simple, first thing in the morning, step outside for light exposure while drinking your lightly salted water. That's it. 2 signals, 1 action. Now, if you want to kick it up a notch, we'll add all of those in. So we're going to do your morning hydration and sunlight, but let's pair a 10-minute brisk walk as well. Finish it off with a high protein breakfast after the fact. And if you're all set on making a full-time routine, here's what I'd personally do. The second you're up, make a beeline to prepare 50 grams of oats with 2 scoops of protein powder and blueberries. Now you're gonna let them soak for a while we continue the rest of the morning routines. And look, if you've made your oats overnight, even better. We can just go on to doing our quick shot of cold exposure, whether that's a quick cold shower or splashes of cold water to the face, and then you're gonna start preparing your morning hydration with water and electrolytes. Put that aside, follow this up with 10 slow body weight squats, 10 large arm circles, 10 large hip circles, and 10 standing thoracic rotations. Then you can have your electrolyte drink with a 10-minute sunlight walk, briskly. Once all this is done, finish it off with breakfast. If done correctly, this morning routine is only about 20 minutes and it is efficient and it sets you up right for the entire day.